wanted to acknowledge all of you for coming to this webinar. Showing up for yourself professionally is huge. And we really hope that you take the next 30 to 40 minutes to lock in, participate. We're going to ask you some questions. It is slightly interactive, but also if you do have a paper and a pen, or you have a device open or your phone where you can take notes, we're going to be sharing some really useful things that you will directly apply to your own resume in LinkedIn as you build them and go into this next stage of your life, whether that is starting your au pair year, continuing your au pair year, or if you're back home and you're ready to launch into the next step of your career. So let's dive in. This webinar is called From Au Pair to Professional. It is a resume and LinkedIn building workshop. And your hosts today are myself. I see a lot of familiar faces. I've probably worked with many of you at our in-person weekends where I teach photography and art here in New York City, where I'm speaking from, also in Miami. I also lead the Tuesday tours through New York City with Au Pair in America, and I've been a city director with Au Pair Weekend for the past 3 years. And aside from being involved with Au Pair Weekend, I'm a professional branding and fashion photographer here in New York City, and I've built my own business. And so I'm really excited to share some of that insight with you as you launch your career. So take it away, Sienna, who is our co-host.
Thank you so much, Emily. Hi, everyone. It is so lovely to speak with all of you about the professional life that you're going to have after your au pair year. So, I am a marketing coordinator at Au Pair Weekend, and I was actually on some of the New York City tours as well in the summer and a little bit into the fall. Besides Au Pair Weekend, I am an entrepreneur. I have a safety company in the United States, and it's an app for college students to stay secure on college campuses. And I have to say, the tips that we're going to be using have helped me in my MBA and also with my professional career after my MBA. So we are so excited to give you all an opportunity to expand your careers with us.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive right into our first interactive moment. And as we think about how you are framing your experience as an au pair into your resume and into your LinkedIn and into conversations you might be having or will have with future employers, it all kind of goes back to storytelling and how you tell your story. So I want you to reflect on your journey. Maybe it is reflecting on your year as an au pair, or maybe for those of you, I know, Adriana, you said you haven't even started your au pair year. What is something, right, that has been a profound experience that has really helped shape your decision to either become an au pair or to kind of steer into the next frame of or stage of your life? And to get even more specific, I'd like this to go in the chat too. So if you can give me some examples. What is one specific challenge that you have faced? Maybe it is a challenge that you faced this year as an au pair. Maybe it's a challenge you're facing now. But type into the chat, what is one challenge that you have faced, and how did overcoming that challenge help you grow? So I'll give you a second to think about that. What is a challenge? It could be just the challenge of working in an environment that isn't your first language or dealing with children 24 hours a day. And how did you overcome that challenge, and how did it help you grow? Again, this could be something very specific to being au pair. It could be a personal experience. It could be anything that is a challenge you faced and how you overcame it. It helped you grow. Give you a second to think about that. And if you don't want to type in the chat, if you want to just unmute yourself and say it, we are happy to hear that too.
We see
Dominique.
the driving experience here in the US. Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I could agree with that as a
Right.
person who learned driving in the US.
Yeah, roads and everything here is big, different rules.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes state to state, the driving culture is different.
Tataru says, this experience has helped me for the future. since you want to work in the educational field. Exactly. Your au pair year is preparing you for early childhood development, childhood education, conflict resolution. Jade says, so maybe it was to make the difference between the family and the work, respect myself and my schedule, and don't put too much on myself. Boundary setting, learning more about yourself, independence, scheduling, appointment building, learning to be independent and responsible, waking up early, time management, right? All of these things that you're listing are such important qualities that build or like building blocks to a strong resume, to strong skill sets that are going to help you out in your future. In my experience, it helped me to improve my English level and to open my view of culture, to be more empathetic, to understand the challenges and virtues of these differences. Wow. Look at that. That is that's a cultural shift. That's a mindset shift. That's the unique thing about each of you. By coming into another country, immersing yourself, you're becoming fluent in another country and also gaining invaluable cultural immersion experience, which is a top resource that employers look for when hiring. You're able to see and critically think about others differently. So these are great. I want you to hold on to these, right? So you've all shared some really great challenges that you have faced, that you're overcoming, that you have overcome, adapting to a new country and environment. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to do a professional introduction, here are some tips to take all of these challenges and eloquently use them to introduce yourself professionally, telling your story. So instead of just saying, I was an au pair, you could say, I managed the full-time care and early development of two children, ages 2 and 6, or insert your children's ages, while operating independently in a cross-cultural environment. So you've taken just your experience as an au pair and validated it into all of these things that you've listed: cross-cultural adaptation, multilingual, early childhood development. It's so important that you recognize your challenges and your reaction to them to professionals, to potential employers, because your au pair year has helped you gain all of these skills. Here's another example. Instead of saying, I was an au pair, you could say, this is a personal example. When I arrived in New York, I had to earn the trust of two young children, coordinate with a busy dual income family, and adapt to completely different culture, all simultaneously. That experience taught me how to communicate across differences and stay calm under pressure. Bing, bing, bing. Employees always look for that. I know when hiring, that is one thing I always look for and I always ask for in the job interview. How do you deal with being under pressure? That's like one of the top interview questions when you go into a job interview. And stay calm under pressure, which is exactly what draws me into career. So if you want to screenshot this, this is a great example of a response to a potential employer question on an interview and how you can, again, take your au pair year, demonstrate the breadth of experience you've had, and then at the end there, that like clench your line, which is exactly what draws me to a future in engineering, early childhood development, childhood psychology, whatever career you're trying to pursue. Bring your story, your challenges to an arrow point to communicate with potential employers where you want to go. Here's another example from an au pair that I had who has since gone to SCAD, one of the leading art schools in Georgia. My name is Yun. I moved to the US to expand my cultural and linguistic skills. Now I use my multicultural lens in my photography, creating empowering brand images for businesses in Berlin. So again, you are referencing your au pair, some of the skills you gained, and then showing how you use those to funnel through to what you are doing now. Let's translate that into a resume format. So You all listed these amazing challenges that you've overcome. And we've all, in our au pair year, you have dealt with conflict, with tantrums, with crying, with kids that don't want to eat broccoli, with changing diapers. And sometimes it's confused, like, how do I translate that into professional words or sentences on a resume? So here are some examples. As an au pair, you've gained these skills, which are great for a resume: independent work and self direction, adaptability. So many of you said that in like how you learn to drive on the roads here and how you learn to wake up early, resilience in new environments, cultural competency, cross-cultural communication, professional, bilingual, multilingual communication, right? You're living essentially with your bosses. That takes a high level of cross-cultural professional communication. Parent communication and family coordination, conflict de-escalation, which is, again, a high quality item that people look for on job resumes: conflict resolution and de-escalation, and household scheduling and calendar management. Now, this is one that I've used on job resumes when applying to things like event coordinator, uh, being an administrative assistant, being any sort of assistant, or in helping at a financial institution, or even starting my own business. I always tell people the example of, for me, what really helped me in my photography business was, yes, taking photos, but it was actually the 5 years that I spent as a secretary at my dad's office, where I scheduled people's meetings and I picked up phones and I did cold calls. That is essentially what laid the foundation of my business. So you want to make sure that things like scheduling, time management, those are on your resume. So what makes a good resume? Let's look at some examples. Again, reflect on your au pair year. Think about, what are important moments, awards, classes, like any of the au pair weekend classes that you've taken with us? A New York Arts Intensive looks really great on a resume. So does a wilderness and wellness course in Colorado, right? These courses, you want to make sure they're on your resume. And any certifications. Are you CPR certified? Are you first aid certified? Those are great for your resume. And connect what you've done and where you're going in the language on your resume. And so I'm just going to show an example of that on a couple of resumes. First, in thinking about the structure of a resume, you really want it to be clean. I know Canva gives a lot of great fluffy, colory templates, which can be tempting, like this looks so pretty. But at the end of the day, I've sat in on many job interviews, and what I like as an employer is if it's clean, it's chronological, it is easy to follow, so I can have it on my screen as I interview you and ask you questions directly from your resume. And something that also employers look for: are you consistent with periods and indentations? And I know that sounds nitpicky, but again, if you're putting the skill of detail oriented on your resume, you want to make sure that your resume reflects the fact that you're detail oriented, that you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to have a period. Look at all these sentences on the ends of these sentences. Looks, yep. I want to make sure all my indentations are perfect, because again, that's demonstrating the skills that you're listing on your resume. Let's take a look at an au pair's resume. Here's an example of one. This au pair, it's a hypothetical au pair. Let's say she's from Colombia. She studied engineering, then she took a year doing her au pair year, and now she wants to go into childhood development. So starting at the top, I see her name very clearly. I see where she wants to go: early childhood development, bilingual education, and child advocacy. I see her location, her contact information, and her LinkedIn. Then professional summary. What are her skills and how does she want to use them? Professional experience. Again, if you want to screenshot this, this is the example of how to list your au pair year in a resume format. Provided full-time care for 2 children, designed and implemented age-appropriate education and activities aligned with each child's developmental stage. So again, taking all that you've done and putting it into professional sentences. And then on this second page, skills and competencies, so languages that you speak, childhood development, professional skills, and additional highlights. She even puts here member of Au Pair in America Cultural Exchange Program. So even listing what type of exchange program you did is an asset on your resume. So next up, some good and bad examples. This is one of those Canva templates I mentioned. There's a lot going on here. If I were to look at this as an employee or an employer, I would see, big picture. Is she trying to hide the fact that she doesn't have a lot of information? Unused space. It's hard to follow chronologically. And then there's some language here that some people might not understand. So it's kind of confusing. Same with this one. The font choice is really difficult to read. It's very tiny. And there are typos. So make your resume and then reread for typos. Here's an example of a Canva template that does work because it is clean, chronological, and easy to follow. So like this one, the others, not so much, kind of crazy. Now, I am going to turn it over to Sienna to talk about your digital footprint and how that is important.
So, something that they don't tell you about getting a job is that they look at your digital footprint. Now, what is a digital footprint? It is a record of your online activity. So, it's what you post on the internet, what you like online, and what websites you're signed up for. And jobs might actually use this as a part of a screening process. So, think about using your digital footprint as a way to show what you're interested in. So, for example, when I was applying to a job at Au Pair Weekend, I was applying to be a New York City tour instructor. But my LinkedIn, which we will soon talk about, showed that I was interested in marketing and social media. And I actually interacted with the Au Pair Weekend Instagram account and started commenting on their photos. Now, this isn't in a 100% foolproof way to get seen, but when it comes to marketing, it is absolutely a good step into getting a job in that space. Now, Emily is going to talk a little bit more about how you can use your social media to your benefit when it comes to applying for jobs.
Thanks, Sienna. Yeah, so first, you want to make sure that you're auditing your social media. Um, Employers have access to it. So just go ahead and take a look at your TikTok, your Facebook, and your Instagram. And are you showing things that you would want a potential employee to look at? Quick audit. And then the next step, if you're wanting to use your Instagram, like for me as a photographer, I use my Instagram to get 92% of my business. So for me, it is a key professional tool. I think it's really important if you're using it professionally that your header image is a clear photo of your face. So people know, oh, you're trustworthy. I can see you. Then, as far as your bio, you want to give it really clear, like what you do. And that could be, I'm a photographer. It could be, I am an interior designer, but very clear what you do. And then a call to action. Want to work with me? Want to experience the magic of my designs? Have questions about childhood development? Book an appointment. So again, excuse me, clear photo of yourself. What do you do? And a call to action.
So now we're going to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a social media platform for jobs around the world. It's an Instagram version of your resume, and you can see different updates from people that you admire, different mentors, so many different people, and you can post achievements that are specific to your career on this site. So you share career wins and lessons learned here, and you support other people's careers. So as you see on the right, we are scrolling through my LinkedIn. Now, I have been curating my LinkedIn since high school. So you see my experience with my university, you and my education. You see my experience with Au Pair Weekend, with Chi Media, with my company, with all of my different jobs, volunteering, projects, everything of that nature. it's very important that you have this visibility when you're going and applying for jobs because it shows consistency across social media and that you're continuously working on your career. Even if you're not making a big career achievement, you can talk about a lesson learned. But a lot of people are confused as to what to post. They get on LinkedIn and they don't know what to comment on other people's posts or they don't know what to post. So we are going to go through an activity on the next slide called Two Truths and a Power Move. And we are going to tell you what you can post. So, this activity derives from an activity called Two Truths and a Lie, where you say two truths about yourself and one lie, but people have to guess. But this is an empowering version of that game. Two truths and a power move, right? So, here's my example. My favorite color is pink. I love to travel, and I have a TEDx talk. So, we are going to write our two truths and a power move, and I will explain how I put each one of those examples into a LinkedIn post. If you could throw that in the chat, that would be fantastic. And what is a power move? So, a power move is something impressive that you've done. So, maybe your power move is I left everything I knew and I came to America for a year. That's a power move. That's something incredibly empowering that you did, an achievement that you had. So, two truths about yourself and a power move. Does anyone need me to explain that further? All right, awesome, Emily. We love that.
Give me an example. I'm excited to see everyone else's two truths and a power move. And I think also it's just worth saying, I think we sometimes there is this subconscious feeling like when you say in public or in small talk your power move, you're coming off as braggy. And I think especially for young girls and women, there is that kind of that culture of there's sharing so much that's so braggy. But I really like this exercise that Sienna's presenting because it is empowering us to really show how awesome we are and these big moves, and not just for women and men and bro pairs. Like it's important to note important professional things about yourself, and that's if you don't say it, how are we going to know about it, right? So this is just a little exercise to get you comfortable and really talking good about yourself in public. And it's not bragging, it's being honest, and it's noting your professional skills.
This is awesome. We have such amazing accomplishments in the chat right now.
Yeah, these are really good.
I
Um,
also completed an undergrad in psychology, so I love seeing that people are in love with psychology just as much as I am.
in Dominica, this pulls my heart. I took care of my little sister all my life, and I had to leave her to move here to do my au pair year. Wow, that is huge.
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. A degree as a musical theater performer. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Look at these. This is awesome. And keep them coming as we continue talking. Like, keep these coming. We'll continue to read them.
Absolutely. So I would love to give an example of how we can turn these into LinkedIn posts, right? Because you see that people post on LinkedIn, and if you don't have a LinkedIn account yet, you're going to see a lot of people post, and you think, how do they even get this content? So, Emily, can we go back to the previous slide just really quick? I'd like to show how every single fact, truth, and power move is posted into a very very nice LinkedIn post, right? So we can go to two truths and a power move. So, my example, my favorite color is pink. I love to travel, and I have a TEDx talk. So, when you're talking about accomplishments, right? In my TEDx talk, I'm wearing pink. And in my personal brand, especially in university, I loved pink. And specifically for this TEDx talk, out of all 8 speakers, I was the only female speaker. And my whole TEDx talk was about the bags we carry and the hardships that we go through and how that makes us stronger instead of weaker. So I chose pink because it was my favorite color and it showed that pink is a strong color. Because pink was a part of my personal brand, I actually was asked to be a keynote speaker for a women's leadership lunch to talk about how pink is strength, how it can be strength and femininity can be strength. So that's 2 separate LinkedIn posts, TEDx and my favorite color being pink, giving me opportunities about how pink is femininity and femininity is power. I also love to travel. When I travel internationally and I meet people that are in different business cultures, it's always something I can talk about. We're going to go through LinkedIn in the slide after this, but I actually have a post where my most recent LinkedIn post is all in French because I also speak 3 languages. So when it comes to my third language and learning about the French business culture and learning about French vocabulary and the politesse and the different etiquette that's required for business, that's a LinkedIn post in itself. So I understand what Emily said about sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk about your own accomplishments and achievements, but LinkedIn is the perfect place to do that. Now, Emily, can we continue to the next slide? I'm excited to give you guys an example of how to even comment on a LinkedIn post. But before we comment, we need to build our profile. So we have a video of me scrolling through my LinkedIn account. So you need to use a clear photo and a friendly headline. So you'll see when this resets, it's a tagline essentially about the jobs that you're doing. You can say that you are an au pair in America. You can mention any of your other, accomplishments that are notable. Like in my bio, I have that I am a TEDx speaker. Then you can write a short about me summary to talk about your accomplishments, what jobs that you are available, you are excited to do, that you're open to do, and your different expertise, right? So, oh, that's so lovely, Emily. That's amazing. I completely forgot you could pause that. So, you write a short about me summary. That's the about me summary. And then we add your experience. So, I have the experience in my company. I have my wonderful experience as a marketing coordinator at Au Pair Weekend. And you're actually able to, as a social media person, you're able to put different links and different content under these experiences. So if you, a lot of people here have degrees, if you published a paper for all of my psychology people out there, if you published a paper, you're able to put that in your experience. But even better, you're able to put that in your university or your projects as well. You're also able to list 5 skills that you have, and you can add languages, and certifications as well. So as we continue, you can see that this is my education. I lived in Florence. So you see that I had my education in New Jersey at Rowan University. And then you see that I had education in Florence and you also see everything I did while I was there. There's one thing to be a student and just say that you were a student, but also to be involved in the community. And I think as much detail as you can put is just incredibly important. And here's a pro tip. You can upload your resume on LinkedIn and it will fill in most of your skills. Now, I recommend that you double check everything, but you can fill in your skills and it makes life so much easier. And for my people who are thinking of international business, I saw an international undergraduate studies in the chat, for international business. You're able to put your LinkedIn in multiple languages. So my LinkedIn is in Italian and also in French. So it's easier for people of those countries to digest your profile. So we are actually going to give an example right now where we are going to not only talk about, we just talked about posting, we are going to comment on a LinkedIn post together. So I'm going to share my screen and right here, we are going to see what we're going to comment on this au pair weekend post, right? So this was one of our other webinars, right? So let's read this, okay? What do we think this says? This is about a webinar that we did 6 months ago. Let's just say it's new. So, the ideas we shared, we offer language support, we do innovational interviews. It's life after the au pair program, much like this webinar. We do quick resume wins. We explain a little bit of career advice for creatives. We give an option or give the advice to join a neighborhood or city board or committee, and then asking your public library about volunteering. So this information is so interesting, and we see that there is a YouTube link right here. So if we click on that YouTube link, we're able to watch the full webinar and really understand the value of this Au Pair Weekend webinar and what they wanted us to know. So let's just say we don't have the time today to watch the webinar. We can find something in here that we can write in a comment and say that we appreciated them posting. So let's look at the comment so far. I wish I had this fantastic session available to me as I was preparing for life after the au pair program. These are fantastic tips. And then Emily, such great tips. Oh my goodness. Emily is practicing what she preaches, really. She's able to, she's commenting and she's able to stay engaged with Au Pair Weekend. Now, I'm going to look at the chat. What do you all think we should comment on this Au Pair Weekend post?
And
I'm
in,
going,
in and also in framing this, like Sienna's using this as an example where if you were trying to find a job, right, in your country, and so you're looking at jobs in international business or engineering, you would go on LinkedIn, you would find companies that would be potential employers and look at their LinkedIn posts. And then you can comment on their posts before you even have a job interview, which is just kind of raising you and your name to like the front of their periphery awareness.
yeah,
So we're kind of like looking at this as like a practice in how you start engaging with potential employers before you even get into the interview, which is getting you ahead. So if you were going to apply for a job with Au Pair Weekend, maybe as like a social media manager, and you read that, what would you comment on that to kind of like get our eyes on you? Like, what do you think would be a good comment? You can put it in the chat.
and just to add, Emily is absolutely right. I actually hired a couple of interns because they were commenting on the social media and actually showing up to different webinars that I was in and different events that I was at. So I have hired multiple interns based on the fact that they showed up and they were visible. That's very important.
And I think as you all put your ideas in the chat, I'm going to go back to the slideshow. And I also just want to say that the same thing for LinkedIn applies for Instagram. If you are trying to get a job with, let's say, I'll just use another au pair company, Au Pair in America. If you don't follow them, then would they want to hire you, right? So if you're going for a job, follow them on LinkedIn and Instagram, and then interact with their posts. I know cross different kinds of jobs that works if you're interacting with an employer. So if you want to stop sharing, Sienna, I'm going to go ahead and share this slide.
Absolutely.
Here we go. And again, if you think of those comments, put them in the chat. Or if you have examples where you've done this, we want to hear. Like if you've gotten a job because you've interacted with people um, online ahead of time, we'd love to hear those stories in the chat too. So that brings us to your time to really ask us anything. Is there something that you wanted to know more about? Is there a question that you had that we didn't cover? Please type in the chat or go ahead and just unmute so we can see your amazing face and we can hear you and let us know your questions that you have. This is your time.
Courtney, I absolutely love that comment. I'm actually going to throw the link to the post in the chat. But you saying these tips will guide future au pairs in being successful after their au pairing time. Amazing. Absolutely. That's so great.
So Jade put in the chat, how can we promote our experience for a school and not a job? And I think this is such a great question. So when applying to a school, like a master's program or a PhD program or an undergrad program, you would use a resume. You could call it a CV, a curriculum vitae instead. Same thing apply. I would lean on keeping it as clean as possible. Like the first examples I showed that were in black and white, the resume, that is what universities like. But all the same skills or all the same uh, building tips apply into creating your curriculum vitae. But I would also, I mean, does your school have a LinkedIn, right? Go on your school, also talk to people who are attending that school and see if you can get connections before attending the school. But again, the words that we kind of went through in this presentation around, I'll go, uh, multicultural competence, works good under pressure, like all those things equally are valuable for applying well. And Courtney also said that she did get an interview through posting a comment on a job posting. There you go.
All right, we have a question from Gonzalo. Hey, Sienna, how was it to do a TEDx talk? You prepared the topic, or they offered you to talk about a certain thing. How'd you get the chance to be there? So my university had auditions for a TEDx, and it's supposed to be about entrepreneurship. So I applied and I gave a wonderful example that really stuck with me about the bags we carry. So essentially, there was this woman in Milan and I saw her. I know we have an Italian in the chat. So she was walking down Via Monte Napoleone, which was this beautiful street with all of these designers. And everyone was looking at the art on the walls or like in the stores. And I couldn't take my eyes off this woman. She was in her early 70s. She had these big sunglasses on with her arms filled with designer bags. And she looked like that was her workout for the day. And it was something that inspired me so much. And I said, wow, like that's me in the future. That has to be me in the future, right? And that personal experience, that personal touch made me feel so empowered to even apply for the TEDx and feel qualified to speak about the bags we carry because seeing her made that possible. So I was authentic to myself when I saw the TEDx applications. If you'd like to apply for a TEDx, you can go on LinkedIn and see if there's any TEDx applications out there, or you can go on the TEDx website and see if there's any local TEDx's in your area. Um, and I ended up getting the opportunity, and that was my first TEDx, which was last year.
That's
Thank you
amazing.
for asking.
We realize that we are running up against time. And so if you have to jump off, go ahead and jump off. But before, I'm just going to quickly share our code that we wanted to give you for attending this workshop. Please sign up for our newsletter. Go ahead and scan that. This is how you can hear more about upcoming webinars that we have and different kind of programming for au pairs. And of course, being a part of our newsletter, you get the first updates on new courses that we offer. And I also wanted to share this exciting thing with just you all. You get a discount code for $25 off any of our courses. That could be online or in person. Just go ahead and use Career25 to get $25 off any of our courses. And that does expire on April 30th. So even if you are just getting here in the US, you could schedule your course out for later in the summer and get a head start. But with that, we want to say thank you to everyone for attending. If you missed any of part of this, we will be sharing this on our LinkedIn and on YouTube. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, we can't wait to see how your careers blossom. So thank you, everyone.
Thank
Goodbye.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
I just threw my LinkedIn and Emily's in the chat if you guys have any other questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Sienna. It was so great seeing everyone.